Hello there folks, this is Ferengi on board here. Welcome to my little YouTube channel, a place where I discuss things about introspection, spirituality, psychiatry, psychology, dream interpretation and other similar topics, usually as answers to questions that I have and questions and answers that come to my mind, and after a while when I get the answers ready and feel ready and prepared to share them with the world, I decide to create one or at times more videos in the same day. Now the point about this video is to present my opinion, and I underline my opinion and also my experience with the concept of truth. And well, the purpose of this video would be to actually have people open their eyes more to one simple fact that most likely everyone misses. The fact is very simple. Everyone tells the truth. There is no such thing as a lie. Of course, most people would probably feel obfuscated by this. They would feel confused, and they would most likely disbelieve this or disregard this affirmation of mine. But all I can tell you is very simple. Everyone says their own truth. Okay, everyone says whatever they can say, and to the most extent they can actually perceive in this life. Now, to get a bit into the aspect of this universe is represented by a point of duality, which means hot cold, yin yang, truth lie, darkness light, and all sorts of other things. These, however, are nothing else than concepts that we have created through our evolution and through our starting to understand the fact that we as a race are somewhat different than the other animals. The other animals have their own perceptions, but they lead their own lives. Now we are supposedly the most intelligent life form on this planet, but ironically we're the only one that actually has to pay to simply exist on this planet. Now this is only a point that in a way allows us, through the chaos of our existence, to make sure that things don't spiral out of control, because through the indifference that there is in this world, and this is a profound truth in the end, well, the point is everything can actually easily spiral out of control. Now the point that I want to say is that as we developed and opened ourselves more and more to the complexities of life, the point about this world is that we needed concepts. We needed concepts and aspects to guide ourselves through this world, because, well, in the end, we couldn't exist too easily without, having concepts to refer ourselves to. Um, Okay, now that I finished a little thing, I can actually go on. So the point is, we have created all sorts of concepts, and these concepts are nothing else than a sort of binding. The moment someone creates, meaning towards something, that is also a way of, giving a false sense of control. What this means is, when we create concepts, we have a sense that we understand more than just we know. This is nothing more than what psychology represents as the Dunning-Kruger effect. The less we know, the more we think we know. The point with what I said is very simple. When we create concepts, we actually reduce everything from the infinity that they can be to one single aspect. Okay, now naturally in my case I do not need to call a tree, or attach concepts, and I actually kind of have conceptual aversion. I kind of disregard and dislike having concepts about the world, because naturally I do not need those. I can simply admire the things around me without attributing them the concepts that most other people require, because to many people, if not to most, if they don't attribute those concepts, those things are you know, unattainable, untargetable. You know, it's like most people function as you know, object-oriented programming. You know, you always need an object in order to do everything, or well, most of the more complicated things. Okay, that's how people, or most of the people, actually work. They require an object of focus in order to take things into account. Now the truth is one of those you know, more discrete and harder to understand concepts that we came up with, and you know, it easily got denaturated, most like everything else, like any other concept that we attributed too much subjectivity to, because in the end it was prone to happening, right? It was somewhat destined, we can say, to happen, because that's how we actually acquire the wisdom. Okay, there is individual wisdom and there is racial wisdom. There is wisdom that is acquired through each and every individual's experiencing, because there will always be people with greater awareness and there will always be people with lower awareness. Consciousness experiences through our race at all possible levels, because that's how the Akashic records and, you know, the consciousness of us as a whole race, that's how it improves. Okay, it's easy to understand. Now, we created the truth because, you know, there always needed to be something that should guide us. Okay, and the truth is, well, nothing more than a guidance system. Now, the problem with most people nowadays is they believe that the truth is something universal. But at the same time, what amuses me is that people have created concepts on the one hand, but on the other hand, they kind of seem to have forgotten what those concepts actually mean, and you know, what they mean in more subconscious levels. Okay, and let's not dive into occult English, because it is full of constructs that people use without fully knowing, or let's say fully being knowledgeable of what those things actually mean. So the very simple point is that without knowing that, they are programming themselves even more towards things that most likely don't serve them. Of course, in time, as we ascended towards the third level of existence, which is that of control, the idea of truth was denaturated easily by everyone seeking control, because, well, if people lack control in their own life, they will seek to control others, and, well, they will seek to be controlled by others at the same time, because it is still a sort of control. I also have a video about why the master is the slave and why the slave is the master. Now, the point about the truth is, many people actually started abusing this idea and, you know, claiming that they know the truth, so that, you know, they acquire the attention that they weren't given while they were young. Okay, no one actually taught the countless generations before us, before this present time, how to raise children, and, you know, the awareness and what actually children are and the potential that they have. And through that, you know, they became very ignorant, because in the end, in a way, ignorance is bliss, but only in a way, because ignorance lowers your awareness very much. Now, the point is, when you attach subjectivity, when you attach meaning, that's like a self-destruction button. Okay, it is what I call as the scope. Okay, when, for example, a sniper looks through the rifle's scope, okay, they can see a certain thing much better, but that is only to their own mind. Okay, because for their own mind, for their own eyes, they see what they focus on. Okay, they see it much better, but at the same time, the point is, everything else is invisible. That is the point of you know, that is the point of meaning. When you call something a tree, okay, it is no longer something, it is no longer a child of creation, a aspect of creation, a manifestation of creation, it is just a tree. So it's like reducing the potential that they have, the almost infinity that they are, reducing it to a simple mere word that, well, it doesn't change anything. You can call a toy whatever you want, it's still gonna be a piece of plastic or whatever material were put into that. Okay, it's not gonna change them in any way, shape, or form. You can call a dog whatever way you want, they're still gonna live their life as if it's the best moment of their life. Of course, Not at all moments, but usually dogs tend to be like that. Now the truth is that there is no such thing as a universal truth, because universal means something that applies to the whole universe at large. Now this might be harder to gulp, okay, this might be harder to gorge on for people who are too attached to science, because science is nothing else than a form of control. It is what I call a more modern Bible, because the way it teaches things, it's kind of similar to the Bible. If you don't believe in those, you're kind of a heretic. And well, I know I'm a heretic because I kind of disregard science. Outside of mathematics, which may be, and I underline the word may be, universal, because I'm not sure if the mathematics that we know will apply necessarily in each and every space that the universe has. Okay, if you want to conquer this universe, if you want to understand this universe, you just have to understand it as a kind of a war. You cannot win a war with just what you think you know, because you're never ever gonna get just that. Most likely you're gonna get much more. Okay? Now we as a race do not know what creation is in its entirety as a process, okay? But we claim we know how the creator looks like, and each and every civilization has their own embodiments of so-called gods and goddesses, okay? And more so than that, they also have exact shapes. Like, for example, Christians believe in God and they know it's an old folk with a white beard, but at the same time the Bible says don't invent gods, but God is kind of an invention by itself, because it is a concept, okay? The moment you create a god, well, it's not a bad thing. Most likely such a being exists, and the awareness that such a being or a group of beings exists, because gods may be actually more beings, okay? No one says it's just one single person, but people are too attached to certain things because it is much easier to follow than to actually take control and take hold of your own existence, right? And at the same time, it's much easier to believe in something else than in yourself. That is why most people actually kiss God's ass when everything is nice in their life, and of course they curse God that things don't work in their life. But they just forget that it's their responsibility to make sure things go good in life, okay, in their life, and why not, to a certain extent, the life of others. And in time, of course, the truth has been shaped to whatever purpose it can bring to certain individuals, to certain societies. And let's not dive into constitutional theories about Illuminati and dark societies, okay? There are, let's say, groups of people that have been guiding this world, and some of them might not have the best interests. But you see, in this universe there is indeed a form of duality. There are those who rule humanity from behind the curtain, because there will always be the need for such a group, okay? There will always be the need for people to arbitrate things. And if you don't believe me and you think that this is something bad, well, you're probably overthinking this, okay? Just imagine that humanity has always been propelled by one individual at a time, okay? The aircraft has been invented by one person at a time. There are a lot of pioneers of flight, but they each created something that regarded flight, okay, and flight mechanics, each at their own time. Very, very few of the processes and things that have been invented through a collective work. Usually things have been invented by a certain person that probably shared it with the community, and then in time that thing became more and more well known. That's how things have always been in the past, because back in the past each community was tied only to its own self, and there were only people who would be brave enough to carry messages from one place to another, and supposing they would survive the journey and then also survive the journey back, well, that was the only way things could actually improve, okay? And visitors would come and be impressed by the local inventions, let's say, and most likely they would replicate them at home. And the point with the truth is that there is only the truth. There is only the truth in whatever people say. It is easy to call people liars, but the point is, when people would lie around you, they are actually telling their truth. It is the most they can do, so don't hurry in judging them, because it's not gonna serve you any good. Let's take for example narcissists, okay? Many people would actually ask, and I think I made a video on that, or if not, I have an idea about that. The point about narcissists and why many people are drawn to them, why people consider them so charming, right? The point is, people will always be drawn by authentic people. And what most people definitely don't understand is that narcissists are the most authentic people that are in the world. Of course, you'll probably still be poisoned by the, concepts that whirl around us, that, they are just pathetic liars, and call them whatever names you want. But come again, I will repeat what I've been saying. It's what they can do. It's what they do, okay? And it's what they genuinely do, which means they are authentic, okay? Through their lies and deception, it is who they really are, okay? They're not bearing masks as you think. There is no mask for them. This is what they are, okay? It's just that, you see, you're playing mind games with yourself, because you see a monster, okay? Because you call narcissists, most likely you call them as monsters, okay? And then you try to portray them in a positive way because you see them as charming if you meet them, but then you still try to call them as monsters because you're most sure that they're monsters, but in a way they're still tempting because they're authentic. That's the only reason why people are drawn to them. Like, take for example a narcissist, and take for example a public speaker. That person who is an authentic public speaker, like whatever famous person you can think of, that person is a person who people will go for because they have leadership potential. They are much more authentic to themselves than most others, and people simply like being controlled. It is a form of reverse control, because if I want you to control me, I'm basically the one pulling the cords, because I will tell you most likely how you can control me. That is why, narcissistic relationships actually go very well, because they always play on this, and they always shift relationship roles. They always change the role play part, the role play role, let's say. And by doing this, that's why narcissists will always draw each other like a magnet. Considering that naturally everyone is drawn to authentic people, you see, they will actually draw one another like a magnet. But the point of narcissists in this world is to remind people that they are the liars, okay? Now, when narcissists come into your life, they come into your life because you're not authentic. That is what they are reminding you. You are not authentic, and they are. They are basically your teacher. And that is why empathic people will always have a lot to learn from narcissists, as I am actually learning from my grandmother, who seems to have quite some of these specifications, okay? She's not a fully fledged narcissist, but she definitely has some qualities of those, or call them bad traits if you want, okay? So they are actually telling their truth because they can't say anything else, okay? They will simply disallow saying something else, just like for example a saint will refuse to lie, okay? Because in each of their worlds, okay, to each of their existence, everyone actually says their truth, okay? Now you have to understand that the truth comes in different shapes. When you meet some random person on the street and they laugh at you, basically it is their truth, okay? The reason why they laugh at you is because they have a bad opinion of their own. They make a fool out of themselves, but it is much easier for simple minds to, project their own bad opinion about themselves on anyone else, because it's a way that they get some attention from others, because if you don't have a trained mind, you're gonna make a fuss out of that. And that means one single thing. You will actually feed that person by, thinking of them. And where your attention goes, your energy flows. That is why there are those people who simply drain you just by, staying around them. And it's been scientifically proven that when you get mad, that kind of disables partly or fully your immunity system. That is why everything in this world seeks to, control you through either your rage, through either your sexuality. Any kind of emotion that you have is exploitable. That's how this matrix actually works, okay? The only reason to defeat the matrix is by developing your own self. As I said in my own history, the greatest rebellion that I made against this control and this society, as I call it with a capital S, was creating my own propaganda, okay, creating my own impressions and creating my own ideas. I've been disregarded by most people, but in the end, when you are disregarded by most people, it is a sign that you are actually growing. It is a sign that you are actually acquiring some sort of success, okay? When everything works fine in your life and everything is, in balance, that is what achieving success actually means. But most people think that achieving success is only about making the money. That is only a small part of success. Actually, that is the reward that comes. Because money is not a problem, your skill is a problem. If you don't have a skill that gives value to people, you cannot simply expect money, because money comes as a result of value that you contribute to other people. So the point about lies is that when people mock you or hate you, it's just their own truth, okay? It's just their own truth that they put in front of you, but most likely it's so close that you're simply gonna not understand that. If you really understand this, you're so very much closer towards the aspect of seeing things the way they are, instead of just interpreting them and attaching all sorts of meaning that is really meaningless, because meaning has no purpose other than the purpose that you give it. Meaning is just like programming, okay? More like development. You create something from scratch, okay? And you have others believe it, okay? Because when you create, for example, a software, or when you create a video game, you create it from scratch. From the first letter that you write of the code to the last, symbol, digit, whatever of the code, okay? So the very simple point is, you actually convince people that that thing actually exists because you create the necessary code for that to exist. It's exactly the same with the idea of meaning. When you give meaning to something, you're basically creating some functions, some methods, some code that allows that thing to exist, and, simply said, you're dummy enough to actually embrace that. It might sound a bit harsh, but, I don't mind giving people some tough love. Hopefully this video offered you some eye-opening, right? Because I prefer for now being more like an eye-opener, because I can give like fully introspective things and ideas, but I simply prefer for the beginning to more like have people start opening their eyes, trying to understand things and becoming introspective so that they can understand their own truths, because everyone has come here to experience their own truths. That is why I will always support the idea that the truth is relative. Also, Albert Einstein said it. Just because I'm sharing my wisdom with you, and the guidance I have been receiving and the experiences I have acquired and gone through, and the sources I have read and heard, it doesn't mean that these truths may actually apply to you, okay? So whatever I say, feel free to take with a grain of salt. Now, hopefully you like the type of content that I'm providing. Feel free to like and subscribe. Feel free to share, especially share with others, so that together we can actually broaden the awareness of people. And well, until next time, become more introspective, take more care of yourselves and your loved ones. You are loved and appreciated. Ferenc Board signing out.